This is the other side of the wall. That's the expanding foam again, and that's where the phone slash DSL line comes in, and that's the bare copper line again. You can actually tell it's copper colored indoors where it hasn't been exposed to the elements as much. This is actually followed all the way up, because that seems to be the question. Trying to make sure there's no shadows. So I'll hold this. This is just the pipe that goes to the rear spigot. So this is the line right here. Follow it all the way through, all the way down to outside to right here. This piece of pipe, this is where it's clamped to. That's just where it originally was in the house. And you can see the pipe goes that way. Oh, I guess I ripped most of the copper out to just get it out of here, make it slightly less chaotic. But I guess that piece does go off to the distance. I thought it was only a foot long or so. But anyways, that's the clamp. I'm trying to hold this flashlight and point at the same time. Okay. That's the clamp. And this is the original ground. This was an old telephone company ground line. It doesn't actually attach. This is the bigger clamp, and that's which goes up to the panel. And you can see at the edge of the big wire right here, this black wire that goes right here, straight up into the panel. And that's why there are so many wires coming out of there. Is the whole downstairs, the wires come from the bottom of the panel to the downstairs, and obviously top of the panel to the upstairs. And just in case you're curious, this big gray one is the oven. It's a 50 amp. That orange one right there, that's the air conditioner. It's a 20 or 30, I don't remember, amp. I think it's only 20. But I'm pretty sure it's like a 10 gauge wire. And then all these are 12 gauge wires on 20 amp breakers, which is significantly overkill from the code. The code only requires 14 gauge wire. The smaller the number, the bigger the wire, the more current it carries. Code only requires 14 gauge wire with 15 amp breakers. Originally I wired a breaker per room with arc faults on only the bedrooms, but the code changed while I was wiring, and arc faults had to be on every bedroom, so a few of the rooms are actually joined onto the same arc fault breakers in there now instead of individual breakers. But all that is per code, so it's still overkill. This is the ground, the gas line right here. And I guess in 2012 they added the extra, they call it an extra safety. I don't know. I've heard both sides of the fence where you don't want power to accidentally go through your ground line, because power to accidentally go through your gas line, because that's kind of an explosive hazard. But I don't know, maybe it's to do with lightning strikes or something, but they want this, they call it a bonded grounding, and basically the ground wire passes right by it. So I might be able to even find a 90-degree clamp, just like that, and clamp into this existing ground wire, which will do the bond. I'll see what they have at Home Depot. I might just need to do a separate line. I'll just do right to the copper again. Either way, it's 2 feet of wire and 1 or 2 clamps. Not at all a big deal. This is the plastic sheeting. Goes up to the sill plate, and then the sealed crawl space vents. So they want the 3-inch gap at the top for being able to see the sill plate for termite inspections. But per your request, I'm going to cut it down at the corner and just flush with the edge, or close enough. The code when this house was built, I need the flashlight. The code when this house was built was, actually I don't even know what it was. I don't know if there was any code, because there was no plastic in here when I bought the place. There was no insulation up here when I bought the place either. I lost my train of thought. Oh, but in 2008 or 2005, when I bought the place, the code was only 80% coverage, but I still there was still a lot of back and forth talk over a sealed crawl space versus a well ventilated crawl space. And I'll leave it to you to Google that and figure out if you care or not. But the two schools of thought are very well sealed, keep out all the moisture, or very well ventilated so moisture can't be trapped. And the problem with the very well ventilated is the hot air from outside comes into a cool crawl space, and as it changes temperature, the moisture content changes, so it becomes very moist in here. So it basically pulls moisture into here. There's some insulation. That's behind all the manifold system. So that's the cold waters, and those are the hot waters. So every single fixture has its own line that runs to it. So, for example, this exterior spigot right there, if you need to service it or replace it for any reason, or if it just started to leak, you could just turn it off at the manifold system, which is exactly what I'm going to do for the front one. The rebuild kits for these, the only reason it can leak is this right here is actually inside right there is where the valve to turn it off is. And then that distance out through the wall is so if it freezes outside, there's no water to freeze. It's turned off that far back. So inside there's the rubber seal that just deteriorates with age. So they sell rebuild kits that are relatively inexpensive, like 15 or 20 bucks. So I'll probably put that on another video along with probably the after of cutting this. And that'll be next.